All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Let's get this a little bit more that way, eh? What's up, everybody? I know studio looks a little bit different, as I've mentioned many a times over the last few weeks. Your boy did move, so we're in a brand new place, a brand new studio. Still got some setting up to do. Still got some design, some little spiff spaff that we got to add around. But all in all, feeling good. Happy to be back. Happy to be back, man. I haven't streamed in quite a while because I had to pack up the studio. The internet crashed. It was like this whole big thing. But we're settled in. New city, new state as well, and I'm happy to get some content rolling for you. So happy to see you all. It's been a while. It's been a while. Headstock in the building, DHA, Jack Brown, Jesus Hernandez, Kryptundon. Okay, I post everything. Love to see it. Larry, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Happy to have you all here. So the market's obviously falling today, and that's what we're going to address. This is probably going to only be like a 30, 45-minute stream. Your boy does have a couple meetings that I need to go jump onto, but I just wanted to jump on and give you guys a quick update going over what's happening in the market, why we're seeing Bitcoin falling, why we're seeing altcoins falling, all that good stuff. So if you are looking forward to it, all that I do ask, you just press that like button, just kind of give it a little tip tap, and that'll help me out a lot. More people will see the stream, more people will join, subscribe, and I'll shield them shit. So welcome in. But anyway, everybody, welcome in. Happy to have you. Let's go ahead. Let's get straight into it. So what's happening? Well, the market's down today, as we can see. One thing I will say on a quick note, is it possible for me to, yeah, let's do that. It looks better. Make that a little smaller. 1 second. New setup things, There we go. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, so what do we have going on here? Well, I mean, you guys get the point, like the last day, honestly, the last week, the last month, just not been very good for crypto. Pippin's been pumping, which is weird. It's still been holding up pretty well. This bad boy ran damn near to $1 billion at this point. Should be interesting to see if it crosses it. But outside of that, basically everything is getting smoked, especially over the last few days. We can see Bitcoin is currently down 5% over the last 24 hours, and that's brought down the rest of the altcoin market with it. XRP, Solana, ETH, wherever that bad boy is, ETH somewhere around here, I'm sure. All of them, oh, there you go. Yeah, down about 5.7% as well. SEI, it's pretty comparable across the whole top 100, that they're down anywhere from like 5 to 6%. Now, it is actually pretty interesting to see that Bitcoin is down 5% over 24 hours, and at the same time, we're seeing altcoins down 5%, because it does mean that altcoins are not getting demolished as much anymore, right? Like if we go look at Bitcoin dominance, for example, what we can see is that Bitcoin dominance has actually been falling. And what that means is that the altcoin market is actually overperforming compared to Bitcoin, meaning that alts are doing better than Bitcoin in comparison right now. And I think that does make a lot of sense. I mean, what you have to understand is that the lower that this market goes, the better that the altcoin market will do in comparison to Bitcoin, because altcoins don't have much to give. They don't have much more room to give. We're talking about an Ethereum that's under 2,000. We're talking about a Solana that's at 76. We're talking about an XRP that's back at $1.32. Listen, these things have been crashing for over like a year, damn near. We've been seeing altcoins going down for nearly a year at this given point. And so they don't have as much room to give compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's down 50% from its all-time high. When we compare that to something like a Solana, sorry, my cat's going insane. But when we compare that to something like a Solana, Solana's down 75% from all-time high to now. That's 2025 all-time high, right? That's this all-time high. We're not talking about previously. And so when you think about it, it is natural and normal to assume that the further down the market goes, the less that altcoins are going to fall in comparison to Bitcoin. And that's a good thing. And I would say that that means that altcoins are in a decent position to kind of begin that accumulation period, I would say. I wouldn't be buying as many altcoins as I possibly can, but I do think starting to scoop up some alts at these lower prices makes sense. I mean, being able to buy Solana under $100 feels like an opportunity more than anything to me, right? And so, sorry, but there we go. And so, yeah, because of that, like it does make sense as to why we are currently seeing the altcoin market performing decently well, I would say. Now, when we look at the top 10, we can kind of see the tail of the story here, right? We were going pretty sideways for a while. We saw Bitcoin, we saw Ethereum, we saw XRP and BNB, a lot of them going sideways for a good bit of time. But then we really started to capitulate. Like you can basically see the story here on this side over here. You can see we started just kind of dropping almost out of nowhere a couple days ago. But what's crazy is that, I mean, this was no surprise to us. We kind of figured that this pullback was going to happen because of the Bitcoin chart specifically. So when we look at the Bitcoin chart specifically, we have been paying a lot of attention to this structure right here, okay? So what we had identified was the fact that Bitcoin had started creating this horizontal resistance zone right there around $71,000 to $72,000. We had this double establishment of resistance where we tried to create this Adam and Eve. We failed there, then creating a horizontal liquidity zone, right? And so when you do that, what we recognize is like, okay, we have a top of a structure here. And then we saw Bitcoin create two establishments of support, which it then respected a few days later, which created this structure, okay? And so what I told you all was, hey, listen, when we see a structure of this nature, I need you to just simply understand that there's a 70% chance that we start to break to the downside of it. It's not what I want to happen. It's just historically based what usually happens. And so I told you all, be prepared for it. That was when Bitcoin was back right around here. I said, hey, be prepared. We're probably going to start to look to break down here, or at least we have a 70% chance to. Now, following that, I told you all, hey, although that is likely the case, and although there's a very real world in which we do fall, towards some of these lower levels, there are these two things that we need to watch out for, and they're called bounce zones, okay? And these are two levels in which easily could push Bitcoin's price back towards the upside and bring the rest of the market up with it. I said bounce zone number one was at $65.17 thousand. Okay, this is bounce zone number one. And then we had a bounce zone number two that was going to be at roughly $60.5 thousand. And I said, these are the two levels that have a very high likelihood of trying to force Bitcoin's price back to the upside and mitigate some of these losses that have been happening now that we're starting to break to the downside. So as we started to break out, I told you all, hey, let's pay attention to these zones. I expect that we come down at least to this one. And that's what Bitcoin did. Bitcoin, of course, tried to get close to it, rallied, and then came all the way down to it, finding its home just yesterday. So fast forward to yesterday. Sorry, I'm giving you all so much context here, but I think it's important. But fast forward to yesterday, as Bitcoin's price got towards the zone, I told you all, hey, listen, this is actually a pretty decent sign. The fact that Bitcoin is finding some support here and trying to rally doesn't mean that it's not going to fall through it, but it does mean that as we go lower, we are slowing down this crash, and it's actually a pretty good thing. Because had this not happened, guys, we'd probably be all the way back at 60.5 thousand. Had we not seen Bitcoin's price being able to kind of slow it down right here, yeah, I think we'd have probably fell all the way down here by now. But that's not what happened. We saw Bitcoin slow down at bounce zone number one, similarly to how it did back here, which is a good sign to show that there are still people stepping into purchase at these key zones of support. And that's a good sign. But I told you all, this is not enough to say that we're not going to continue downwards. Give it 24 to 48 hours and the market will tell us what will happen. And well, lo and behold, we fast forward to today, in which Bitcoin's price has fallen through that bounce zone and is currently in pursuit of this lower bounce zone number two, around $60.5 thousand. And so, although when you look at the coin market cap chart, you see this and you say, okay, well, we were just going sideways and then we fell. It's much more complicated than that. There are more things that are happening behind the scenes, because this sideways consolidation that we were seeing was actually Bitcoin exiting out of this structure. And once it confirmed the loss of this structure, that's the point in which we really started to capitulate. So this wasn't just a random thing, right? When you go to the Bitcoin coin market cap chart, this wasn't just a random thing, a random pullback that happened here. No. This was a loss of structure that was then, of course, followed by capitulation. And we are in the capitulation phase. So with that in mind, the question that a lot of people are going to ask themselves is, okay, well, how far down do we go? Does this get worse? I know a lot of people right now are calling for 55,000. I've seen some calls for 54,000. I've seen some calls, matter of fact, actually for 49,000 recently as well, with everyone assuming that this is going to continue to get much worse. And if I do have to, of course, be the bearer of bad news, I definitely do think there is a world in which we do head towards those lower levels. What you have to understand is that when crypto creates continuation patterns, you usually do continue, meaning that you had a downtrend, you saw a continuation structure, and then usually you continue that downtrend. That is typically the case. And so I could agree and say that there is again a world in which we head towards some of these lower levels, and you do need to be prepared for it. But, and that's the exciting part of this part of the video, that's not guaranteed yet. While everybody is screaming that we're about to go to 57,000 or 55,000 as if it's a sure thing, I'm from the mindset of, yeah, it's definitely possible, but it's not confirmed quite yet. And the reason why I believe that it's not confirmed quite yet is simply because there's still a lot of liquidity between us and 60.5 thousand. What you have to understand is that when we reached this zone last time, we saw a beautiful bounce. We saw Bitcoin's price really get some this is real V-shaped recovery right here, guys, in which we saw the bulls step in at force. We saw them step in at mass at this key level. And so, of course, naturally, when you start to approach that key level, you're going to see them step in again. Now, maybe not with the same strength as previously, but they are going to step in. And that is what we are seeing now. Look at how Bitcoin's price has started to kind of round out as we've gotten closer and closer to that zone in which we were previously back in, this little zone right here. Now, it's not just the zone, but there are also support levels that are doing this as well. For example, if we draw in our Fibonacci from this low to this high to trace this retracement, what we can see here is that Bitcoin's price is currently now at the bottom side of that Fibonacci golden zone, perfectly at the bottom side of that Fibonacci golden zone, which is a part of the reason as to why it's slowing down. So just like bounce zone number one slowed it down right here, the bottom side of this Fibonacci golden zone is slowing it down right here. And every time that Bitcoin's price falls and gets slowed down, it's mitigating the losses. It's reducing the overall sheer amount of red that we should see towards the downside. Think about it like speed bumps. Bitcoin is a car and it's driving downwards right now, but it only has so much gas. And every time that we hit one of these support levels, we're running into a speed bump that will naturally slow it down and slow it down and slow it down until Bitcoin eventually runs out of gas to the downside. That's what's happening here. And so, although yes, it is very true that we could see some of these lower $50,000, $45,000 levels being reached, it's not confirmed quite yet because we are seeing these speed bumps slowing Bitcoin's price down, and we still have some speed bumps ahead of us. The biggest of which being bounce zone number 2 at $60.5 thousand. What we can see is that bounce zone number 2 is still a good ways below us. Bitcoin is still roughly about 3.7% of a fall from being at bounce zone number 2. And in theory, this should be a very strong zone of support, especially based on what we saw previously back there and what we've seen in history before at bounce zone number 2. Look at how we've had moments in which we've used that previous zone at 60.5 to continue upwards. Bitcoin entered into its freaking October rally after establishing support on this bad boy, guys. When you go look at the previous market, this zone is another one of those zones where we were running into resistance. This isn't just a weak zone. This is a strong zone of liquidity in which we easily could see it hold as support and try to push Bitcoin's price back to the upside. Now, it's not the most likely scenario, but I would assign it a 45% chance of happening. I think that's super reasonable to say that there's a 45% chance that Bitcoin uses this support to try to at least continue to maybe go sideways or maybe quick wick down recovery, and then maybe actually some sort of decent recovery back upwards. So it's not the most likely scenario. The most likely scenario is that it does continue down, but that's not 100%. Everybody's making it out as if it's a 100% chance that Bitcoin now heads back down into the 40s or the 50s. I don't agree. I think it's roughly a 65% chance, and those are decent odds, especially when you include the fact that we are seeing some interesting things happening currently on the liquidation map. If we look at the liquidation map currently, what you can see is that Bitcoin is stacking liquidations above us on the 1 day, substantially on the 7-day, substantially on the 30-day. And we're actually seeing a shift in the 90-day as well, in which we are now seeing it heavily weighted towards the top side. You look at the 180-day, it's heavily weighted. You look at the 1 year, it's also heavily weighted. And what does that mean? It means that there will be a lot of people who get liquidated if Bitcoin makes a miraculous recovery to the upside, because that's what people are framing it as. They're framing Bitcoin recovering here is miraculous, a miracle, because there is a quote unquote 100% chance that it continues towards some of these lower levels. And what I've come to notice is that when it takes a miraculous move for a recovery to happen to the upside to liquidate short traders, it can happen very often. So if you believe in miracles, that's one for you. And so when I look at this and when I think about this, I'm honestly not super convinced quite yet. And that's why I'm really not all that concerned. Yeah, does it suck to see Bitcoin capitulating down again back towards 60,000? Sure, it does. But at the end of the day, this isn't anything new for Bitcoin. It does this all the time. Matter of fact, you know something I just thought about? Hold on. This is going to take me a second to find it, but I do want to kind of... When did I say this? One sec. Here, February 6th. The reason I'm so concerned right now is because Bitcoin tends to drop. Okay, let me give you the context of this tweet. Bitcoin had just fell and then it recovered. It had just fell and recovered. It was back here on this day. So when Bitcoin saw this, then immediately recovered back up towards some of these higher levels. I said, drop, create a big wick, pump fast to attract long trades, and then slowly go all the way back to the bottom of the wick. Okay? Remember that. Drop, create a big wick, pump fast to attract long trades, slowly go all the way back down to the bottom of the wick. I said that on February 6th when Bitcoin was starting to recover. Look what happened. Bitcoin dropped, created a big wick, pumped fast to attract long traders, and then slowly worked itself all the way back to the bottom side to capitalize on those liquidations. Guys, I called it. And I'm not usually one of those people who said, I called this, but I called this shit. It's just what Bitcoin does. It has a history and a tendency of doing this. And so I'm not concerned by this. This is nothing new. People are saying, oh, it's because of Iran, or oh, it's because of this, or oh, it's because of that. And sure, you can attach whatever you want to it. Totally fine. Do what you want. You can call it what you want. But what I'm going to call this is pattern. This is history. This is what Bitcoin has a tendency to do. And we figured. And so as Bitcoin's price is coming back down towards some of these lower levels, I'm simply just saying, hey, while everyone's screaming that Bitcoin's heading to 45K, I'm going to sit back and watch, because Bitcoin has a decent sized chance of trying to find some support somewhere in this zone and using that support to maybe even run all the way back up to the higher 60s, which could be a decent move here. Okay. It could be a decent move here. And so at the end of the day, like, sure, Bitcoin could get worse. Sure, things could get ugly. Sure, we might capitulate from here, but it's not. The nail's not in the coffin. We're not guaranteed that quite yet. And I'm not going to be someone who is convinced that Bitcoin's headed straight to 40K right now. Not when it's showing signs of slowing down and we still have bounce zone number 2 below us. Now, if Bitcoin capitulates straight through bounce zone number 2, oh yeah, baby, things are going to get ugly, right? There's a very real world in which we start hitting breakdown targets in which Bitcoin chases 57,000 or 54,000. Things could absolutely get much worse from there. I'm just not convinced quite yet that that is going to happen. Again, I assign a 55% chance of some sort of capitulation move towards the downside like that happening. 45% chance that between now and 60.5, we find some sort of short-term relief, short-term recovery. Okay. So that's the way that I'm looking at it. So how do I respond to this? Well, I'm actually going to do a little bit of accumulating. I'm going to do a little bit of dollar cost averaging. I'm not going to do big purchasing. Like, I'm not going to go in and start doing huge buys. And the reason I'm not going to do huge buys is because, again, there's an over 50% chance that we do chase down some of those lower levels, as we did just break through a continuation-based pattern. Does that make sense, right? So, like, there's an over 50% chance we do continue downwards. So why would I do big purchases right now? What I would prefer to do is buy in moments in which I think the odds are stacked in my favor, in which, we hit a major support level, liquidations are above us, we don't have a breakdown target below us, and it feels likely that we rally soon. That's when I'd like to be doing big purchasing. But in a moment like this, where everyone's screaming that we're about to crash, but there's liquidations back above us and Bitcoin is showing signs of slowing down, yeah, I'll do some small buying. So my game plan today actually is to go in. I'm going to buy a little bit of Bitcoin. I'm going to buy a little bit of Ethereum and a little bit of Solana. Those are going to be my 3 for the day. And no, those aren't the only ones I like, right? I do have other ones in my bag, but these are just my highest conviction plays, right? Ethereum is an altcoin staple. Solana is the best altcoin in my opinion, and Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And so I'm just going to do a little bit of accumulating on those 3. Okay. But with that in mind, I do want to kind of jump now that we have the context in the scenario and we understand what's happening right here, that Bitcoin is pursuing bounce zone number 2, and that'll determine whether or not we do further capitulate or not. I do want to take a quick look at altcoin charts just to see if there's any comparisons, divergences, etc. Now, before we get into that, I did want to tell you all a little bit about today's stream sponsor, and that is CoinX. So you guys know I've talked about CoinX many times here on the channel, but what CoinX does is it simply provides you with the ability to earn some extra APY and some extra income on your cryptos. Now, we all know that in the past, there have been platforms like these that have been not so good, right? They've overpromised, they've underdelivered, they've really screwed people over, and CoinX seems to be trying to go as far away from that as possible. They promise, or they guarantee things that are much more sustainable. They have deposit rewards that are more sustainable. They seem to be learning from the people that came before them and how to actually provide the service in a legitimate and sustainable way. And that's what's so exciting about them, because honestly, in this market, when you have everything just crashing, you got Bitcoin crashing, you got altcoins crashing, there's really no way to make great gains here unless you enter leverage trades, but they provide you with the ability to simply just earn. And I think that's what excites me the most about it, is that you can just earn without needing to take on a leveraged risk. And so with that in mind, what they have are some cool, very cool options. But one of the best is that if you do sign up with the link to CoinX down below and check out some of the different ways that you can earn, whether it be through fixed savings, flexible savings, staking, dual investments, or many more, which we've gone over here on the channel, you're going to to get a $100 USDT gift pack, which is pretty cool. It can kind of just kickstart your campaign with them. And then, of course, there's some extra rewards and bonuses along the way. But honestly, it's pretty simple. They don't make it super complicated. You can earn interest. You have withdrawal periods. You have all of the basic things in which you can deposit funds, earn some extra yields, just like as if it was like imagine in traditional finance, you have like money market accounts and things like that. It's very similar, but just in different ways. And so I will leave a link for it down below if you do want to go check it out. They have everything: USDT, USDC, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Inge, Sol, Sonic, and many more. And again, you're going to get a $100 USDT gift pack if you do use my link down below. So feel free to go check that out. And of course, thank you to CoinX for always being such a great sponsor of the channel. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. So as I mentioned before, we just went over Bitcoin and we talked about what it's doing. Let's now compare this over to altcoins and see how they stack up against Bitcoin. And let's first and foremost look at Ethereum. Get some water. All right. Hey, look at this guy. Look at this guy. A guy with another man as his profile picture. It's insulting another man. I love pocket watchers. They're cute. If you want me to sign something and send it to you, I will. Okay, here we go. So when we look at Ethereum, so this is the problem with Ethereum right now. Okay, let me kind of look at Ethereum from more of a zoomed out macro perspective. The problem with Ethereum right now is the fact that we've recently lost the golden Fibonacci zone in the macro sense, right? And we're currently at the very bottom side of it. And this is kind of like the determining moment for ETH. You know what I mean? This is the moment where we kind of look at ETH and we go, like this is about to tell us a lot about the future for Ethereum. And, I called it a problem. Maybe it's not a problem, but maybe it's just like, what's the word? This is the dilemma. That's a better one. This is the dilemma for ETH. So what we can see is that ETH ran all the way from April of 2025 all the way up to August of 2025. It made a run from 1381 all the way up to around $4,940, right? It made an actually really good move. And from there, what ETH did was it got its ass whipped. It started to come down, created a continuation pattern very similar to the one that we're tracking right now, and then executed on that continuation pattern, breaking all the way to the downside, officially confirming, of course, loss of support here, pulling all the way back down to currently $1,800. Okay. Now, as it made this move downwards, it did start to slow down here. And the reason it slowed down is because it ran into this golden Fibonacci zone from this low to this high. Now, if you don't know what a golden Fibonacci zone is, hold on one second. There we go. There we go. Anyway, I don't know. People like that just get under my skin. But yeah, so whenever we look at this, right? Whenever we look at what's going on here with this golden Fibonacci zone, if you don't know what this is, put super simply, it's a zone of support that is going to serve as a liquidity bounce area. Or in other words, when you go down into it, it should try to push you back to the upside. It's a strong zone of support. The problem with that is that if it doesn't, that's when things can get quite ugly. And that's where we are with ETH. ETH is kind of standing on a cliff. Because at this given point, if ETH decides that it's going to lose support and fall below $1,800, what's going to happen is that it's going to now have a breakdown target. It's going to basically have a magnet that's going to try to pull it all the way down to this previous low from April of 2025, around 1381. And right now, ETH is testing that zone. Right now, ETH is standing on a cliff. It's a big cliff. Y'all remember, what's that movie? Y'all ever watch The Conjuring? It was called The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It, where I think it was either a girl or a dude. I can't remember. But they're like standing on a cliff and then they like run up to the cliff and they're like, no. And it just falls off the cliff. That's what ETH is like trying to do right now. And so when I look at Ethereum, another part of the reason as to why I'm not buying a lot of ETH right now is because it is standing on a cliff and there is a chance that it continues off of it, right? And again, if it continues off of it, there's a very, very real world that we see ETH start pulling back towards $1,300, $1,400. And that could be a continuation of like 20%, which obviously sucks. And like, we don't particularly want to see that happen. Now, I don't really know the percentage chances of this happening. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that. And maybe I'll tell y'all that in like a video coming up. I feel like there's a very real world in which that happens and ETH starts venturing towards some of these lower levels. And so I just want to be careful with ETH right now as it's trying to test this support. And so I am going to do a little bit of buying on ETH right now because there is a chance that it holds it and it continues back upwards, especially considering we do have this magnet up here, right? So if you look at this, we have that descending level of resistance that is in theory going to try to pull ETH back up to it. That is true. And this could be the support level that does it. We hold some support, we use that support to push back up towards that descending level of resistance. That is very reasonable. That could happen. So I am willing to do some purchasing right here if that move does happen, because I would assume Yeah, like, there are liquidations available to the upside here for ETH. Like, we absolutely could see some sort of short squeeze happen that allows ETH to push off of this support zone and tries to push back upward. So that could happen, which is the reason why I'm willing to do some purchasing here. It is just a risk. ETH is feeling real risky right now because loss of support here could end up being somewhat catastrophic. Okay. Now, on the bright side, another thing that I am noticing is that we are seeing a bottoming out structure here on this daily RSI, which could open up the door for a move back upwards as well. So all of the possibility is there for ETH to use this support to try to continue upwards. It's just dangerous. And so because of that, I am going to, of course, open up the DCA, but in a small way. Now, I know a guy, who was it? There was a guy in the school. I can't remember who it was, but one of the guys that I know was tracking this bottom side of this Fibonacci zone. And actually, what they're doing is they're opening up a long trade with the stop loss set below 1700, so like 1670 or something like that. Long trade set here, stop loss set around 1670. I think he's on a 5x leverage trade, which would open him up for, obviously we're talking maybe 30-40% losses on that margin at least. But he is opening that up with the idea that ETH is going to try to push all the way back up to this little bitty zone right here between that previous point of support and the top side of this golden Fibonacci zone. And so I think he's looking to try to scoop I think his profit margin was like 40%. Yeah, because it was a 40-40. He was like, I'm risking 40% to gain 40%, which he was totally fine with. And so he's opening up a long trade. I think that could be an interesting play. I'm probably not going to do it just because I am moving and I'm working on stuff and I'm trying to get my studio put in place and all that. And I don't have time to just stare at these charts. But that could be a good option. Like, because in theory, I'm doing something similar with my spot purchase in the sense that I'm mitigating the size of that spot purchase because I want to see if we fall off. In theory, that is similar to leverage trading with the stop loss set. So if you want to take that on, feel free. I'm not going to tell you to. I don't know. But you get the point, right? So there are options here, but that is how ETH stacks up against Bitcoin, and that's kind of what it's doing right now. Hey, quick question for you all. If the live stream has been good, I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about just the quality, like video, audio. If it's all been sound, my internet especially, can you put a 1 in the chat? I've never streamed from this house before, so I'm not sure how it's going. If you could put a 1 in chat, I'd really appreciate it. Now, let's look at Solana, okay? Because Solana's been a bit of a different story. So what we can see is that Solana's, really completely rolled over here. So Solana put in, of course, that previous all-time high back in 2021. Okay. Put in this previous high in 2021. It came all the way back down to $8. It's so funny. Like, some of the people who are in the Solana community are like, Solana's at $75, dude. This is the worst thing ever. And I was like, man, you clearly weren't around when this shit happened because this was not fun. This was back whenever the FTX crash happened. Alameda Research held around 22% of the total Solana supply, and people started expecting that would be the reason why Solana went to zero. And then on the weeklies, we started to create this reverse cup and handle pattern. And I was like, hey, things are crazy here. Maybe we get a bounce, and then so ran. But it's funny. Like, people, newer people look at this and think, oh my God, this is terrible. People who are around since 2021 look at this and think, oh, this is like not great, but not bad. It's been worse. It's funny how experience changes perspective. And also average cost, right? Like, a lot of people's average costs are somewhere in here. If they're somewhat new, a lot of people's average costs from back in the day are somewhere right here. So I guess we're still like barely fucking keeping our head above the water. But anyway, so when I look at Solana here, I think the picture becomes quite clear, right? So we saw Solana's price put in this low here. Okay, cool. Stream is good. Sweet. Ran all the freaking way back up towards that previous all-time high. This is an all-time high for Solana. People don't understand that this is an all-time high for Solana because they don't understand the difference in supply. So, one, we did create an all-time high because we wicked above the previous one. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Two, we created an all-time high because the supply was inflated. So one of the shittiest things about Solana, look, I am a Solana bull. I really like Solana a lot. I've made a lot of money off of Solana. Solana has been by far my most successful investment of all time. Its supply inflation is absolute fucking dog shit. It is terrible. And it's a part of the reason as to why the price has not performed super well. And I hope they get it under control, or one day I'm going to give up on Solana. It's like that. Like, it is my favorite altcoin, my number one bag. If they can't figure out a way to get the inflation under control, I will eventually give up because you're swimming against the tide at that point, right? And like, whenever you look at what happened, the market cap of Solana up here was way higher than it was back here. But since the supply got inflated, the price never really got to get up there. You know what I'm saying? But we ran into that all-time high. We created this little, looks like a head and shoulders, but it's a little bit wonky. Eventually and ultimately pulling, of course, to the downside, currently at $76. So what's happening with Solana right now is that Solana it cleared this little zone. As you can see, we have like a little area right about there, okay, where like we had this previous point of support right here. We had this previous point of support right here. And we're currently trying to establish support on this previous point of, on this zone of support that we're at right now. And this has been a pretty generational support level. I mean, we got a good bounce off of it there. We got a good bounce off of it there. We're seeing Solana obviously trying to slow down at it right here, right? We wicked below it. Whenever we saw this move right here, boom, we wicked below it, but we came back up and it slowly trickled back down to it. So right around $75, which is a strong psychological level, it makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? Solana's trying to hold 75. Now, if 75 doesn't hold, there's definitely a real world in which we do see Solana start pursuing some lower, like 60, 50, 49-ish. You know, like I could definitely see Solana getting pretty substantially uglier from here if it does like dramatically start losing this level. But the good part about it is I wouldn't imagine that it would be like $20. I see so many people calling for $20, $30. I'm not seeing that. You look at the weekly RSI for Solana, this is the lowest level that it's been at. And I mean, I'd almost go to say ever based on this chart. Which I just think is completely unjustified. We're still sitting clearly at higher lows here. We're now officially putting in lower lows here, which means that Solana is officially creating bullish divergence in the macro sense. I mean, as macro as you can possibly get, which is the reason why I don't think Solana's coming back down to $8. I don't think it's coming back down to 10. I don't think it's coming back down to 20. I think Solana is getting close towards whatever zone it's going to try to create a bottom in. I would say at worst, maybe we come back down towards like previous lows, like 32. I'm not sure if we go that low, but I definitely could see a world in which that happens, especially considering that you have the top of that golden Fibonacci zone right around 31. I definitely wouldn't say it's impossible that we wick down into that at some point. So the way that I'm looking at it is that Solana is trying to hold some support here. And if it does it successfully, Solana retesting like $100 to retest these previous zones of support and maybe flip into resistance, it would make a lot of sense to me, right? But if we do capitulate over this support zone, coming back down to start pursuing like $50, $55 makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? So that's another part of the reason as to why I am just buying a little bit of Solana right here, just to try to maybe capitalize on some sort of small recovery move or leaf rally here, but saving some cash left over so that if Solana does really start to roll over, I have some capital available to accumulate anywhere from 60 to 50 bucks. Okay. And so the picture became, the picture is very simple. And I think you guys kind of get the point at this point, is that a lot of these cryptos are now standing on the edge. They're knocking on heaven's door. And if they decide to just walk through that door, things will very likely get much, they could get uglier from there. And we could start to really capitulate. But the truth is that it's not confirmed yet. Bitcoin is still within bounce zone number 1 and bounce zone number 2, which is going to serve as a support zone. And until we fall through the support, we're in a decent spot where we can see some sort of relief and some sort of recovery. And so because of that, I am doing some small dollar cost averages and some small purchases in the zone that we're in right now. Okay. So that's the general approach that I am taking with Bitcoin, with crypto. I'm not buying any altcoins, or any meme coins or anything like that right now. I'm not buying any microcaps or anything like that right now. My primary focus is my high conviction plays, because that's what keeps me grounded during times like this. A lot of people ask me, like, Tyler, how do you keep grounded, I suppose, during moments like this where the market is sucky and it feels like crypto will just never be the same again? And it's a great question. And the reason being is because in moments like this, I always rotate and pivot my attention and my interest towards the highest conviction plays I have. I don't think Solana's going anywhere. I don't think ETH is going anywhere. I don't think Bitcoin is going anywhere. I don't think altcoins as a whole have performed very well, because we're not in this sort of environment in which they should. But that doesn't mean that if placed in a different environment, they can't see really, really good gains. And I think we are going to get good gains from many of the top best altcoins. Okay, not all of them. And I even tweeted that earlier today, right? Like, that's something that you need to understand, is that I said, unfortunately, many altcoins that were popular in previous cycles will likely never fully recover fully again. Fortunately, this will be a good thing for the overall quality of the space. So a lot of the bad ones are not going to perform well, but the good ones, I think they will. And so you just need to be willing to kind of wait it out. And that's where we are. And so, speaking of another tweet that I made, that's why I said earlier, like, I'm pretty confident in the purchases that I'm making on Bitcoin in 2026. And, it may take a while for these buys to be super profitable, but I'm willing to wait, because at this given point, my conviction, my thesis remains the same. I believe these top alts will do well. I think Bitcoin will do well. It's just not their season. Everything in life is seasonal, and it's just not the season for crypto yet, but it doesn't mean it won't come. And I want to be positioned well when that does happen. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there, and that's kind of my game plan. Now, a couple things that I do have for you before we do go ahead and go into the Q&A section of the video. So if you have any questions, feel free to let us know in the chat. One thing I do want you guys to capitalize on if you are trading. So maybe you're going to go grab that ETH trade that we talked about. There could be a decent ETH trade here. There could actually be a decent Bitcoin trade and a Solana trade. Very similar trades on all those three. If you are going to trade it, I would encourage you to take a look at my link to BTCC. It's down below. Guys, there's so much available for you. When you first sign up, you're going to get up to 10% deposit bonus on your first deposit over $500, meaning you can get up to $10,000. Okay, $10,000 in deposit bonuses just like that. Then when you do start trading, you can get up to another $13,000 from the trading volume that you generate, making it up to $23,000 that you can generate if you deposit and start trading. You're going to get up to 100 in USDT registry coupons, which is okay. But I'm going to pick 2 of you who sign up, deposit, and start trading to win $500 a piece. I'm just going to send it to you, USDT, send straight to your account. Feel free to check it out. Okay, so we're talking nearly $25,000 in bonuses and rewards. If you're a trader, there's no reason not to capitalize on that. So the link for that is down below. If you don't trade, you just hold it. Remember, there's a way that you can save yourself some money when it comes time for taxes by opening up a retirement account with iTrust Capital. If you open up a retirement account with them, you're going to get up to a $100 funding bonus, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's going to allow you to kickstart your journey. You can save up to 37% on crypto taxes when you go to sell in the future, because guys are going to want to sell in profit eventually one day. So check out that if you're not a trader, and if you are a trader, feel free to check out BTCC. But with all the shilling aside, let's go ahead and let's answer a couple questions. Okay. Crypto relies on sentiment and trust for it to thrive. That's nearly all disappeared. Altcoins rely on sentiment and trust to survive. I do agree, not Bitcoin. It's not hard to bring sentiment back. All you need is 2 good weeks of momentum and everyone comes back in full force. Dogecoin will do well. Maybe so. Hagendahl, what's up, homie? Someone do a welfare check on Raw Paul with his sweetbacks. Jeez. Tyler, your opinion on Bitcoin descending daily channel starting July 25th and October 25th? July 25th. Bitcoin descending daily channel. I'm not seeing that on October 25th. I'm not seeing that. Dogecoin 2027. I'm not big on it. Personally, I've never bought it. I just didn't like it. I just buy weekly and bigger purchases if there's a significant dip. It's literally one of the easiest ways to go about it. Yeah, this guy's just a dork, bro. You know, like, I understand that the market sucks and it's just not fun, you know, and sometimes when the market goes down, you just want to look at others. You want to try to blame people for your poor life choices. But at the end of the day, like when you join live streams and you're just talking shit to everyone, if you just talk shit to me, it doesn't bother me so much. But like you're talking shit to everyone in the community, I'm just like, you're lame. Like you're a basement dweller. You drool on keyboards. You eat Cheetos. You drink Mountain Dew. You play video games. You burden your mother. You're just one of those people. And I just don't like people like that. I'm like, you're a fucking loser. So it's just like, you know, just ban them. Get them out of there, you know. Do you ever think of me before that? Yeah, I actually do. I actually do occasionally. And when I dream at night. Can you please take a look at H-Bar? I used to do a lot of videos about this alt. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, H-Bar, it was pretty simple with me. You know, my thesis on H-Bar was that if we fell below this red zone, things would get really ugly. And it did. You know, it came back, tried to back test its previous zone of resistance. It flipped its support. It failed to do so. Came down, back test, and continuation downwards. And now it's just in a free fall. And so realistically, if I was going to assume where H-bar would go, I would assume that it would start trying to build support within this golden Fibonacci zone. So right now, I would say it's actually in a decent accumulation time. Like this is when you would be looking to accumulate H-bar. But if it loses this zone, I mean, understand it's going to get really ugly. And you could see 40, 50% falls from there. My issue with H-bar is that it never really amounted to what I thought it would. I guess just because general market sentiment never shifted in its direction. So I'm not really focusing too much on it anymore just because it underperformed what my expectations were. Did you see the conspiracies that Bitcoin means buy the Jesus? No. If we have a bear market for stocks, if we have a bear market, BTC means Bitcoin. If we have a bear market for stocks into the end of the year, do you think that crypto can bottom early and rally in spite of that? I do think so, yes. Maybe not rally, but definitely go enter into like that sideways accumulation phase. Dot, Polygon, and ADA. They're in my might make it. I think ADA won't, but I think Dot and Polygon might. Hi, Tyler. What are your thoughts on Hedera? I think it's okay. The market feels 2022, 2023. This market feels much more than 2019 to me. It feels very much like this. Like this is much more what it feels like to me. Like that. Like this. Somewhere in here. Somewhere in here. Tyler, do you think some crypto company projects or exchanges will go belly up? Yes. Yes, I do think it's coming. Do you still believe in Lingo? I do. I actually still have that in my risky microcap bag. What's the point of looking at it when Bitcoin's down? You know what I mean? Your view on Cardano, please. Don't really love it. I think Charles Hoskinson is just not great. It's going up pretty quick now. If you need one DJ, thank you, boss. Appreciate you, G. Thoughts on Aptos? Okay. All right. Pretty solid. Bitcoin 4-hour descending channel starting on Feb 9. I could see that. The issue is we've not gotten any sort of confirmation of support, like whatsoever. What you could assume, though, if you were going to track this, is that we would be at bottom side. What the fuck? Oh, there we go. That we would be at bottom side now. A rally off of this, yeah. A rally off of this would be interesting. I know some guys have been tracking this. Could be interesting. Yeah, I'll leave that up. I'll leave that up out of curiosity, especially as it does correlate with the bottom side of the golden Fibonacci zone and bounce zone number 2, all in this one little area. Yeah, I like that. That's great. Yeah. Shout out Langstrom. Good call. Loving the drop. I'm buying coins. Yeah, hopefully so. My guy Ty, what's up, G? Do you think Athena will outrun their token unlocks this year? I doubt it. Crypto is the internet of money. Sentiment is low, but the future is still bright. Love it. On a serious note, I opened a BNB short at 619, but that shit is holding strong. What is BNB at right now? What price based on fibs can it go to? I got a liquidation at 701, but I can buy a DCA short order at 680 to double its size. Why are you shorting the most manipulated crypto in history? Especially as it enters into a very strong zone of liquidity. Look at these wicks. That's going to be a wall. That's going to be a wall. That's a risky one, dude. Based on fibs, it could pull 527 downside. Back to which would make sense because that is in alignment with these previous wicks. You're playing a fucking crazy game right now, Stein. I'm not gonna lie. You got an oversold weekly or oversold daily Fibonacci golden zone, strong wall of support. It absolutely could. Like you absolutely could see BNB capitulate, especially maybe even back to this previous 420. Hell, maybe it even starts coming down the bottom side golden zone down here, and we start talking about a pullback towards 420 to 304. It could, but that's a hell of a try. That's a hell of a try. Nah, I'm not a big one on Cardano anymore. Do you use the miner production if you analyze for Bitcoin? If you do, not really. I don't know much. I don't know enough to understand the correlation, if I'm going to be honest. Economics, the restrictive monetary policy have to loosen up, but this one's their interest in SQ just like all times. In a different way, though. I don't know, man. They've not really been producing like I expected because the market's just not good. Like, there's just no money flowing. I guess like 40, 35, 40. I think the technology behind Sonic is good. I just don't think it's holding up well. Nico Bain, what's up, G? Hypothetically, if Bitcoin dropped to 11,000, what would you do? I'd probably buy like 10 of them. Now that in this cycle we have polymarket too, do you think it will affect crypto in the long run? I think it'll drain a little liquidity from it, yeah. Minimize our long-term potential for sure. Fucking hate this guy with the passion. Any guess on the Bitcoin bottom? I went over that one. Bitcoin would only go to 11K. Yeah, I agree. Anybody having issues with Binance leverage? I'm not shorting anymore, but for some reason, even after doing leverage security tests, it never allowed me to leverage higher than 5x. That's weird. Was wanting to buy some spot. I just closed 50%. There you go. My G. What to do if I'm 100% alts and down around 66% right now, all top 100 alts? Consolidate those positions into your highest, your best, most conviction plays and hold on for dear fucking life. Zcash, I don't know too much about it, but I do think the narrative makes sense. Good morning, Mental Extraction. How's it going? Hello, everyone. Do you think there's an AI bubble? No, I just think that, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. Maybe. I feel like there was a worse AI bubble in 2024. Cool. All right, guys. Well, look, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. About 45 minutes in. I have a meeting starting at, okay, that starts in 1 minute from now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys did enjoy today's live stream. If you did, I do always appreciate it if you could smash the like button. Your boy will be back streaming much more often, especially throughout the month of March. I have a professional kickboxing fight coming up in 4 weeks. And so because of that, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be training and I'm going to be around a lot more, meaning that I should be streaming anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. So make sure to turn on your notifications to never miss them. Don't forget to check out BTCC. Go get those bonuses. Check out iTrust Capital. Go get that deposit funding bonus and go check out CoinX, a great sponsor and a great partner of the channel if you do want to start earning on your crypto today. But with that in mind, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video and live stream, and I will see you all later in the next one. See you later, everybody.